Hey you guys, welcome to the channel. So today we are going to be doing something super duper fun. We're going to be ranking horror movie franchises based off of their first movie. So the very first entry into the series, okay? And we're going to be ranking it based on a couple things. So let's set the guidelines, okay? So we're going to be talking about the plot, the killer in the movie. We're going to be talking about the gore and the kills that go along with that, as well as the setting and some other things, okay? I'm also going to be talking about, is this movie going to make me uncomfortable to watch with other people? Because there's always that underlining connection of sex and horror. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to be rating kind of what I consider to be the iconic entries into the slasher genre. So we're going to be doing Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Scream, Child's Play, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Terrfier. Okay? Let's go. So we're starting out with Friday the 13th. And I think Friday the 13th, if you were to go up to any person on the street and say, name me a horror movie for $5, or name me a slasher killer for $5, they would probably say Friday the 13th or Jason Voorhees or something to that effect, because it is just kind of a legend in terms of horror, right? I mean, for better or for worse, it's an iconic slasher movie, and I think it sets the tone for a lot of what slasher movies have become and were. So, and it has such a reputation for being like this gore fest of a movie, right? Or like having insane kills. Like that was just, at least when I was growing up, that was the reputation that this movie had. And then when you watch it, you find out it doesn't really live up to that expectation that you have. So let's get into it. Let's start with the plot of the movie. So Friday the 13th takes place on Friday the 13th. And it follows around these camp counselors who are going up to Camp Crystal Lake, which you might have heard of, to reopen it for the summer season. And they're kind of fixing things that needs to be fixed, hanging around, chilling, the things that you get up to in the summer. So yeah, it's following these camp counselors, and the characters are kind of not memorable at all. They're kind of just walking around wearing these horrendous, goofy outfits, and when they're not doing that, they're sleeping with each other or being murdered. So there's not really much character development going on. There is one guy who is like the most character ever. He's just walking around telling everybody that they're doomed. You're doomed. Because Camp Crystal Lake is cursed, and they are cursed, and they're doomed. It's great. I love him. That's really all I can say for the plot. There's really not much going on, and I find it to be boring. So yeah, I will say, and I'm probably going to say this for every single movie on this list, but Friday the 13th has an amazing soundtrack to it. Like, honestly, it's great. I love it so much. And the whole, like, thing in Friday the 13th is great. I love the addition of that into the movie. So those are some positives that I can say for Friday the 13th. Another positive I can say is the setting. I think Camp Crystal Lake is a really good setting.
Not fucking done. She fucking dead.
I love the summer camp vibe. I love the rainy end of summer thing we got going on. I love how isolated Camp Crystal Lake feels. It really adds that doom sense to the movie, like, because the characters are so isolated from everything else happening in the world. You don't think that there's any way that they're ever going to escape from what's happening to them, and I think that is really good in the movie. So I love Camp Crystal Lake. I think it's iconic. I think it works for the movie. It adds to the movie. That is one positive thing that Friday the 13th has going on. So now we're going to talk about the killer. And this is definitely some gray area in Friday the 13th, because if you didn't get the memo, Jason's not in this movie. The killer is actually his mom, Pamela Voorhees, or Mrs. Voorhees rather. So basically, it's not Jason, right? It's Mrs. Voorhees, and this will add to the plot as well, but basically she's going around killing these camp counselors because her son was left unattended by camp counselors who weren't doing nothing, and Jason was left to drown because they were not attending to him, basically, right? So she's trying to make sure that Camp Crystal Lake stays closed so that whatever happened to her son will not happen to anybody else. Basically, she's getting her revenge. She does not achieve that because there are 13 of these fucking movies. Like, it never ends. But anyways, yes, that is the killer. And I don't mind that it's not Jason. Jason is in this movie. We see a glimpse of him as a child drowning.
Oh my gosh, she's bald. She's bald and she's torturing people who have hair.
In Camp Crystal Lake, but we don't really get Jason until the third movie in this series. So take with that what you may. So now we're going to move on to the kills and the gore aspect of the movie. The kills in Friday the 13th are pretty average for a slasher movie. There is one memorable one where a camp counselor, who is played by Kevin Bacon, of all people, is laying in bed and he gets like an arrow through the back of his throat. And that is a pretty good kill, but the rest of them I find to just be forgettable. And that's more to the point of what I was saying about how Friday the 13th has this huge reputation to it, but then when you watch it, it just kind of misses for me. I find the movie to be pretty boring overall, and the kills also pretty boring and not memorable. Yeah. I do kind of want to talk about one thing that I feel like I have to mention when I talk about Friday the 13th, and it is a kill in this movie. Like, let me just set the stage. So basically, they wanted shots of a snake in this movie, so they hire a snake, and when you have a snake, you have to have a snake keeper or snake tamer to, I guess, supervise the snake, because the snake is not getting acting lessons from 3 to 6 p.m. He's just not, right? Like, he's a snake, he's there. So the snake tamer actually, or I guess reptile keeper, I don't know what the right word for it would be. Anyways, he brings his pet snake to the movie. He's like, oh, it's gonna be so great. Like, my pet snake is gonna get screen time in this big slasher movie. I'm so excited. And then one day he leaves the snake unattended and they kill the snake. Like, they chop his head off. And that scene is in this movie. And I don't like that. And that takes away a lot of this movie for me. So I just wanted to mention that so you understand where I'm coming from. Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't like that at all. So there's that. So let's talk about the twist in Friday the 13th. So the twist of Friday the 13th is that Pamela Voorhees is the killer and it's not Jason himself. But I kind of argue to the point of whether or not that is considered a twist, because when Friday the 13th came out, I obviously was not alive, so I don't really know, like, Jason as a character was not really invented at that point because he wasn't the killer in the movie, right? So I struggle to say whether or not that is a full-on twist, but of course, if you're watching this movie nowadays and you've never seen Friday the 13th, obviously you've heard of Jason before, I'm assuming, because he is an iconic image in horror. That would be a twist for you because you're expecting Jason to be in this movie and he's not. So yeah, that is the twist of this movie. Next, we're gonna do the uncomfy meter. So, uncomfy meter, Friday the 13th, let's talk about it. There is not a lot of gratuitous nudity in this movie, even though a lot of people would have you think that. I will say, I'm not a fan of extreme nudity in slasher movies, which is why I added this category into the ranking, because other people might be like me and they might want to know what they're getting into with this stuff. And I will say there is a lot of softcore makeout scenes in this movie that I find to be uncomfortable because they're very long. Most of the movie is that. It's kids walking around the forest, making out, getting killed. That's the movie. And so I'm gonna say I would be uncomfortable watching this movie with other people for that aspect. Like, I'm not putting this on with my parents, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of uncomfy going on there. So Friday the 13th. Overall, I will say these are my thoughts. I find Friday the 13th to have an amazing reputation. I love Jason Voorhees as a killer, like his design. However, he's not in this movie, so I cannot put that into my ranking of this movie overall. I find the movie to be boring, to be honest. If I'm gonna be so honest, I find Friday the 13th to be boring. I don't think there's much that can save this movie from me thinking that either. Like, we got just the plot of nothingness, the killer is Miss Voorhees, which I don't mind, but it's not Jason. You kind of come for Jason, and when he's not there, what are you staying for? Definitely not the dude walking around in suspenders. Definitely not the snake being killed on camera. You know, like, I'm just... So, those are my thoughts. I find it to be very boring, underwhelming. I don't think it lives up to the reputation. So, let's put Friday the 13th on the ranking list. Everybody say yay! Friday the 13th is officially the best horror movie on this list, sitting at number 1. And yes, that is because there are no other movies on this list, but we should give it its flowers while it can have them, okay? Moving on, Halloween. So Halloween came out in 1978, so we're backtracking a little bit from 1980 with Friday the 13th. I will give a personal anecdote when it comes to Halloween. I grew up in a household of horror movie fanatics, and they all loved Halloween. Like, for me as a child, Halloween was the horror movie. I was not allowed to watch it, and I don't actually think I watched it until I was a teenager, but growing up, Halloween had this huge reputation for me of being the best horror movie. My mom, to this day, Halloween is her favorite horror movie series. She loves Halloween. And also, a lot of people regard Halloween as being the very first slasher movie. I would argue that it's Black Christmas, but I see the argument for it being Halloween. And so it has a lot riding on it in that regard, as well as being the first slasher movie. You could argue it's Psycho, you could argue it's Black Christmas. Most people come to the consensus that Halloween is the first slasher movie because it has a lot of the tropes that people align with slasher movies in the genre, right? So there's that. To me, Halloween has always been kind of like a background movie for Halloween specifically. It has wonderful Halloween vibes in the movie. It has numerous jack-o'-lanterns in the movie. It has a bunch of people watching scary movies. There's trick-or-treating. Like, it feels very cozy, and it's perfect for the Halloween season. I think it's one of the best movies to put on just if you want to feel like it's Halloween time. But we're going to talk about the movie as a movie, so let's get into it, shall we? So the premise of Halloween is this. The movie opens with a young Michael Myers killing his sister, which leads to him being locked away in an asylum for 15 years, and that 15 years has passed and he has escaped, and he is returning to Haddonfield to get revenge on the town, I guess you could say. He's basically wreaking havoc in the town of Haddonfield, which is where he is from. So Halloween follows, basically I would say, the plot of two different characters. So you have Laurie Strode, who is babysitting in the town of Haddonfield, Illinois, and then you have a psychiatrist who was Michael Myers' specific doctor, who is walking around Haddonfield because he has a feeling that since Michael Myers has escaped, he will return to Haddonfield. So he's kind of just walking around doing nothing the entire movie until the very end. He's literally walking around going, like the entire movie. So I would definitely say Laurie's aspect of the story is much more interesting. And I will say Halloween definitely differs a lot from Friday the 13th in a lot of aspects, but I think the characters is where it differs the most. And I'm only comparing it with Friday the 13th because that's the only movie that we talked about up until this point. So, but yeah, there are actual characters in this movie whose entire personality is not just wanting to be a shoe in strip monopoly, right? Like we have Laurie, who is, I think, a good character. I like Laurie Strode as a character. She fights back against Michael Myers, which I love so much. Like, she was totally kicking his ass. Like, she stabbed him with a whole knitting needle. Like, and also I just want to say, when I was watching these movies, I was knitting for my class, and I just like, I started to think like, could I stab somebody with this needle if I needed to? Like, in self-defense. Like, I look insane saying that, looking like this. Nobody was stabbed before I made this movie. Okay, no, they're not very sharp. I kind of was like, could I? No, they're not very sharp. So Homegirl used a lot of force to stab Michael Myers with that needle, okay? She is strong. She's a bad bitch. Let's just establish that. I love Laurie Strode, okay? Now we talked about Laurie and the plot a little bit. Let's talk about the killer of the series. So, Michael Myers.
He needs some milk!
Is the killer. And Halloween, obviously, right? It differs from Friday the 13th in that as well. Backing up to the character point, I think Michael Myers really feels like a developed character. They set him up in the beginning as somebody who murdered his sister and was locked away, and now he's back, and we're kind of wondering, you know, what's gonna happen with him in the movie. And they really do a good job of building up Michael Myers in this movie. They really build up him being this boogeyman figure in this movie.
Lori, what's the boogeyman?
Which is totally fitting because he's just walking around like creeping on people the whole time, but he's kind of like becomes this shadow to the characters and to Laurie Strode. Like wherever she is, he is kind of there in the shadow watching her, and it builds up this boogeyman persona, and it adds to the Halloween vibe as well that we were talking about earlier. So he has this boogeyman persona, and I think it is kind of creepy, like how he's just always in the shadows watching you, like you never know.
Open the door! Open the door!
And Michael Myers is this silent killer, right? Like, and that adds to it as well. He's in the shadows silently watching you, and I think Michael Myers is a good killer. One of my favorite killers of any slasher movie. I think he's done so well. I love the design. It's kind of a meme how people are like running away from Michael Myers and he's just like walking a set pace, but he always catches up to you. I think that aspect of Michael Myers is done very well, and it is kind of creepy, to be honest with you. So let's expand on that a little bit more and talk about the kills or the gore in Halloween. How are the kills in Halloween? So Michael Myers is kind of known for having his overly large, like comically large chef's knife that he uses to stab people with, right? But in this movie, that's kind of not a thing. He's kind of just strangling people. He's not really flashy in this movie. He was trying to be low-key, okay? It was his first one. He was a little shy. He just, you know, he just got out of the hospital. Like, he was being a little low-key about it, okay? There is a particular kill in the movie that I like where one of the characters is on the phone and Michael Myers kind of stalks up on her and strangles her with the phone cord. All the while, Laurie Strode is on the other end of the phone call, so she can kind of hear her taking her last breaths through the phone call. And I thought that was really unique and a cool kill in the movie. So let's talk about the setting. Haddonfield, Illinois, which is another completely iconic addition to the horror movie genre. It's a cozy little town all decked out for Halloween. You know, we got the kids trick-or-treating, we got jack-o'-lanterns around. Like, it is a cozy Halloween town, and it works for this movie. So let's compare it to Camp Crystal Lake that we've just seen in Friday the 13th. Camp Crystal Lake feels isolating to the characters, right? They are going out of their way to go to this place that is far away from their comfort zone. In the middle of nowhere, they're isolated and the killer is there. Versus Haddonfield, the killer is coming to them. This is happening in their hometown, a place that they are completely familiar with and used to, and something out of the ordinary is happening where you would least expect it, right? In Camp Crystal Lake, there was really nobody there to help the characters because they were out in the woods by themselves. In Haddonfield, there are so many people around them that could help them, but they just don't. Like, the neighbors straight up ignored Laurie, like, banging on their door, begging for help. They're like, we want no part in this. Good night. No more trick-or-treating. Our lights are turned off for the night. And I'm gonna once again harp on the fact that it is so good for a slasher series because it is happening in your corner of the world. The killer is coming for you. You're not going out of your way to go and seek the killer. It is happening in your hometown. It's perfect. I love that concept. And that's why a lot of people consider Halloween to be so great, because I don't really think that had ever been seen before that much in horror movies up until this point. Next category is twist. Is there a twist in this movie? I don't think so. I mean, it kind of sets up this whole thing with Michael Myers that he never really dies. We see Laurie shoot him and you think he's dead, but then the camera pans back over and he gets right back up. So that kind of, but I don't think that's a twist, and that kind of happens in every single Halloween movie after the fact. So I don't really think there is a twist in this movie. Okay, now let's talk about the uncomfy meter for Halloween. There's maybe one scene of somebody getting undressed, but other than that, it's not really, I don't find it to be that uncomfortable to watch with other people. So Halloween, good job on the uncomfy meter. Overall, I like Halloween. I think it is a solid movie. Another one with a very high reputation. These all are going to be iconic movies with high reputations and a lot of things said positively about them. But I think that Halloween, for the most part, lives up to its reputation. It has a good killer. He's in the movie, so I mean that alone, you know. I like Laurie as a final girl. I think she's a strong character. I love the setting, and I love the Halloween vibe it's got going on. It is a perfect Halloween movie. How many times am I going to say that? Probably you're sick of hearing it. So let's rank the movies. This is the ranking. I don't think anybody would be too surprised to see this, but Halloween, number 1. Everybody, let's give it up for Halloween. Round of applause. And everybody, let's give it up for number 2. Friday the 13th. Yay. Still, you know, number 2 is not a bad ranking.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Next up, we are going to be looking at A Nightmare on Elm Street, which came out in 1984. So I'm going to give you a basic rundown of the plot of this movie. And it is that a group of teenagers who live in the same neighborhood start having nightmares at the same time. And when they talk about their nightmares to each other, they discover one key aspect, and that is that Freddy Krueger is in all of their dreams.
Nancy, you dreamed about the same creep I did.
And they also find out that Freddy Krueger is not just a man in their dreams. No, he's a man in their dreams who actually wants to harm them. And guess what? He actually can harm them, but only when they are asleep. Okay, so fine, I'll just stay awake and I won't have any problems, right? Yeah, it's not that easy. But I'm gonna move on because I love this movie and I probably will never shut up if I don't stop myself, so I'll leave it at that. So I'm just gonna make a bold statement and say that Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, is the coolest premise of any horror movie of all time. I love the idea so much, and you are never gonna change my mind on that, okay? A killer who can only hurt you in your sleep is genius. I think it is a brilliant idea, and I think it's a brilliant movie, and I should say it. Yes, we should all say it. The characters of Nightmare on Elm Street, outside of Freddy, I think are okay. I don't overly love Nancy as a character, and I know that is a crazy take. She's fine. She's whatever. She does her job, yes. And I'm just gonna mention a couple more points that are not super important, but I want to mention them before we move on and get into like the setting and stuff. So I will say a couple things. The music in this movie is amazing. I said that for Friday. I don't know if I said it for Halloween. It's true for Halloween as well. Halloween has an amazing score. If I didn't say that, I'm saying it now. But Nightmare on Elm Street is no exception. It has an amazing score as well. I also will say, I think A Nightmare on Elm Street is super well directed. It's Wes Craven, who does Scream as well. And I think Scream is also very well directed, but A Nightmare on Elm Street is super well directed as well. And my third point is this. Nightmare on Elm Street has one of my favorite scenes of any horror movie of all time. It's the one where Nancy is falling asleep in the bathtub and Freddy's claws come up through the bathwater. I love that scene. This movie is directed very well. It has a lot of beautiful shots in it, but that is one of my favorite all-time shots of any horror movie of all time. So, setting. Let's talk about the setting for A Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, it takes place on Elm Street. However, outside of that, it doesn't really say specifics. According to Google, it takes place in Ohio, which, you know what? Fair enough. I think it makes sense. This movie would totally take place in Ohio. I think that it doesn't really matter too much because I would argue that the setting is the dream world that Freddy exists within. I think it's a good setting because Freddy can obviously only attack you in your dreams, and he can manipulate the dream world in any way that he pleases. But outside of the dream world, there are some cool aspects that take place in the actual world, such as the banger nursery rhyme that they wrote for this movie.
3, 4, then lock your door. 5, 6, grab your cruise stuff.
But overall, the actual setting is kind of whatever to me, if we're counting it as the physical world and not the dream world in which Freddy can manipulate things. So let's move on and talk about Freddy Krueger. And I will give you another personal anecdote, okay? When I was a child, I've already said I grew up in a household of horror heads, basically, but when I was a kid, I was terrified of Freddy Krueger. Like, seriously, I was so scared of him. I thought he was like the scariest guy on earth. But I also thought that my grandpa looked like Freddy Krueger. And like, could you imagine being told you look like this guy? That would ruin my whole day. I would never recover from that. But I was scared for a good reason, okay? Freddy Krueger is a scary character. And I think that is because Robert Englund, who plays Freddy, does such an amazing job characterizing him.
Please, God.
This is God.
He really invokes this like psycho killer energy that Freddy needs, and it's perfect. Also, since Freddy has this aspect to him that he can manipulate the world around him, it works in his advantage, and I think that makes him a little bit stronger than other slasher killers that we'll see on this list. So let's move on to the kills and the gore in this movie. The kills and gore in this movie I absolutely love. Right off the bat, I'm just going to mention the fact that this movie has one of the most iconic kills of all time, and with that, one of the most iconic effects of all time in any horror movie. But in addition to just that, overall, the effects in this movie are done really well, and that adds to saying the gore is really good in this movie. And listen, I'm old school, okay? I like my effects best when they're done practical, okay? And this is an amazing example of that. And seriously, the practical effects in this movie are done so well, and they look better than most effects done nowadays. I'm looking at you, Conjuring 2, The Crooked Man. I need an explanation for what the fuck that was. So Nightmare on Elm Street actually does have a twist, unlike the other movies that we've mentioned up until this point. And the twist is that it's revealed that basically the reason that Freddy is attacking these specific kids is because their parents actually ganged up on Freddy and killed him in the past. Granted, they do have good reason, because he was killing kids. That's all he was doing. I don't care what the later movies tell you. That was it. Point blank period. He was killing kids. Nothing more to the story, okay? But yes, that was a good reason for them. Okay, you get my point. He was killing kids, and then the parents ganged up on him and killed him themselves. And then they had kids. Who are these kids? And that is why Freddy is attacking them. Does that make sense? And then also the ending of the movie. There's a whole scene at the end of the movie, and then it's revealed that the ending was just a dream and that Freddy didn't die and he actually was still alive. That is a really good ending. I love it. And that is also a twist in this movie as well. And so finally, moving on, the uncomfy meter with Friday the 13th. I don't think there's nothing that makes me uncomfortable in this movie at all. So good on you, Nightmare on Elm Street. Good on you, Wes Craven. One movie you made that does not have strange sexual overtones in it. Well, Scream 2, but this one, good on you. So overall, A Nightmare on Elm Street, I love this movie. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the first 3 movies. I think they're very solid. I think A Nightmare on Elm Street is so overlooked for some reason, and it does not deserve that at all. This movie is amazing. Freddy Krueger is great. Robert Englund is great. The directing, amazing. Amazing music, amazing kills, amazing effects, amazing movie. I love it. And so, let's update the rankings. I think some people might be upset with me, but this is my opinion, okay? What does the title of this video say? My opinion. So you can't be mad at me. Actually, you can, and that's totally fine. But in my opinion, the rankings are as follows. At the bottom, we know we have Friday the 13th still, and above that we have Halloween, and I am going to put A Nightmare on Elm Street as my #1 ranking on this list, okay? Let's move on. So, the next entry into this list is kind of tricky because I think some people say that this is not even a slasher movie, but to me, it is totally a slasher movie, and that movie is
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So, let's get into it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, they say that this movie is based on a true story, but that's like saying The Conjuring is based on a true story. It's a super loose tag, I think, they throw on movies sometimes. I mean, this totally is based on a true story because it's based on again, however you say it. True crime people don't come for me. And that is a thing that happened, but it was not anything like this movie. So that's why I'd say it's a very loose tag they threw on this movie. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in 1974 and it takes place in the 70s. And it follows a group of friends on a road trip to a family's house in Texas, and they are going up there because there have been reports of graves in the area being tampered with, and they want to make sure that their family members aren't having their graves tampered with. And so on this road trip to Texas, through Texas, they encounter some interesting people, to say the very least. And then eventually they run into Leatherface, who I would argue is the most interesting person they will run into. And what follows that is indeed a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you could say. There's just a lot of red flags during their hippy-dippy road trip that kind of instill this fear in the audience as you watch. This movie is definitely a slow burn all around. It's setting you up for what will eventually happen in the movie by showing you a bunch of things that make you uneasy as you watch. It does a really good job of instilling this fear within you. You feel uncomfortable watching this movie because of the things that are happening to the characters are uncomfortable and, quite frankly, kind of creepy. The trip, it's just progressively getting more like, hey guys, maybe we should, let's go home, let's turn around, let's go home, until you just got teeth coming out of nowhere. And then you realize, oh shit, I don't think that guy's coming after me with the mallet because he wants to give me a house tour. I think he wants to give me a basement tour, if you know what I mean. That progression is done amazingly well, and the buildup of the fear that you feel is really amazingly done. And I think our protagonists of the series aren't necessarily fully developed characters, and I think that's totally fine because the characters in Texas Chainsaw Massacre that matter are Leatherface and his family. They are the characters, and you see that throughout other movies in the franchise as well. They are the characters, right? However, I think the actors in this movie do a really, really good job showing fear.
Take it easy.
He killed Franklin. I don't know. Call the police.
Like, I think that is probably, maybe, I'm not an actress, so I don't know, but I assume that is a very hard thing to show. And they do it so well. All of them do a great job showing fear. And because they do such a great job, you as an audience feel that sense of fear as well. And it just adds to a scariness to the movie. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a scary movie. So let's move on to the setting of this movie. So obviously the Texas Chainsaw Massacre takes place in Texas, and it takes place on the Sawyer family farm, which I like as a setting. I think if you live in the South, you have driven past at least 15 houses a day and you're like, I could see a murder happening there. That is the house in this movie. An old southern farmhouse, like, looks a little creepy. It works. I like the simplicity of it. The simplicity adds to the effect of the feeling of fear that you get because it looks familiar, especially if you live in a rural setting. You know, you're familiar with the setting of this movie. So I like the simplicity, especially because later movies, this shit is happening underneath a fucking theme park, okay? Okay, let's move on to the killer of this movie. Oh, Leatherface, my beloved. I have always had this weird feeling towards Leatherface because I feel sympathetic towards him because it always seems like he's being forced to do these things. But anyways, Leatherface as a killer, he's like this big, stocky guy running at you with a chainsaw. What's not to love? I mean, it works. It's great. So let's talk about the kills. Let's expand on that. The kills in this movie are honestly pretty tame, and I think it's another movie that kind of has a reputation for being a slaughter fest similar to Friday the 13th, and it's really not. There's not that much gore in this movie. There's a lot of blood and a lot of bones and a lot of chickens, but I mean, that's really it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre does have a twist, and the twist is that while they're on their road trip, they're meeting all these interesting characters that I mentioned earlier, and then we find out that these characters they are meeting are actually a part of Leatherface's family. And they, in turn, are the people who will be torturing our characters later on in the movie. Like the creepy guy from the beginning and the guy we meet at the gas station actually are a part of Leatherface's family and are trying to kill the characters. And they keep doing this twist, like, in every movie. So, but I mean, I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So the uncomfortable meter for Texas Chainsaw Massacre is really no nudity or anything in this movie. I don't really feel that uncomfortable watching this with people, except for the scene where like the dusted over grandpa is like going to town on homegirl's finger. Overall, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a movie that I have seen so many times. I love this movie. I think it's great. I think it takes itself seriously as a horror movie, which is saying a lot if you've seen the other movies. Like, it honestly sometimes feels like this first movie is so far from the movies that come after it in the series. Like, it is truly, to me, a work of art. And when I rank my favorite horror movies outside of the slasher genre, this movie is always within my top 3. Honestly, with even my top 1 or 2. I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love it. That being said, I see the argument for it not really being a slasher movie, so ranking it in terms of being a slasher is a little difficult. However, I think that it is just such a great movie that it's not that hard to rank it, actually. So let's rank these movies. At the bottom, we know we have Friday the 13th, and above that we have Halloween, and above that we have Nightmare on Elm Street, sitting at number 1 currently. However, I am gonna put Texas Chainsaw Massacre as number 1 right now because I just think it is an amazing movie, one of the best horror movies of all time. I love it. So let's move on. The next movie that we're going to be looking at is Child's Play, which came out in 1988. I'm going to sum up the plot and say this. There is a murderer named Charles Lee Ray, who was, we will say, partaking in black magic, and during the time of his death uses voodoo to transport his soul into a good guy doll. And the doll then becomes alive because of this voodoo spell and has his soul living inside of the doll. Then this doll is sold at a discount to a mother who gives it to her child Andy for his birthday. Then Charles Lee Ray, while inside of Chucky the doll, is trying to get revenge on the people who were involved in his murder through the means of a doll, basically. A murdering doll. Chucky, we all know, we love. So Chucky spends a lot of time with Andy, and Andy, who is like adorable, by the way. I love Andy in this movie. He becomes close with Chucky, and then he starts to realize Chucky is like alive and is killing people. And he's like, hey guys, I think Chucky is like killing people. And obviously everybody's like, no, that is not happening. You sound crazy. And that is the basic overview of the plot. I find it to be kind of hard to explain because it's kind of a lot going on compared to the other movies, but that I did my best, okay? I had this thought while watching Child's Play that I really love watching the first entry into these franchises because they feel so different from the movies that come after them. They have to spend a lot of time introducing the audience to the killer and the specific roles that they play in the movie, and the rules that they have as well. It's just, there's such a quaint feeling to them, especially Child's Play, because somewhere along the way Child's Play lost the plot.
Gender fluid.
For better, I think, or for worse, you might think, but I specifically feel that with Child's Play, that it just feels so quaint watching that first movie because, I don't know, I like it. So, setting of Child's Play takes place in Chicago, and that's kind of all I have to say for it. And it is different because we don't really see a city environment in any of these movies, really. So that is interesting and different from the other ones that we've seen up until this point. But I find that that's really all I have to say about it. So let's move on to the killer. The killer of Child's Play is obviously Chucky. And I'm probably going to reiterate a lot of what I said when I was talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street when it comes to talking about Child's Play. And that is that I think Chucky is amazing because Brad Dourif, who voices Chucky, is amazing. He characterizes Chucky so well, does an amazing job with the voice acting. I also think that Chucky is kind of funny, and that's kind of the first time we get to see a funny take on a slasher killer. I mean, we kind of see it with Freddy, but I don't think that that was fully there. So we get to see that with Chucky, and I love that. And since Chucky is a doll, right, he's pretty small, and so they got a chance to be like kind of creative with the things that they could do with him, and that really differentiates him from other slasher killers in these franchises, because the things that Chucky can do, they can't do, but that's because the things they can do, he is not able to do because of his size. For example, there is this scene where Chucky is attacking somebody in a car, and he gets on the floorboard of the car and like uses the pedals, and I just thought that was really creative, like, because other slasher killers couldn't do that, obviously, but Chucky can, and I love that. Also, some of my favorite scenes in this movie are shots from Chucky's perspective. There's not that many of them, and I really wish they included more, because I think that that is really interesting to see. So, the kills and gore in Child's Play. The kills in this movie are good and fairly dramatic, which I think is fitting for Child's Play and for Chucky. One where Chucky throws a hammer at Andy's babysitter. The force is so strong that it literally sends her propelling out of a window. Like, I love it. It's so dramatic. I will say there is no twist in this movie, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the uncomfortable meter. Child's Play has a squeaky clean record for the first one when it comes to this. There is no uncomfortable scenes in this movie, which is probably because the main character is a child. However, that's like unheard of in slasher movies, so I gotta give it its flowers for that. Overall, Child's Play I really like. I think it has great characters like Andy and his mom and the cop character that we see. Chucky is awesome. I love Brad Dourif. He does such an amazing job with Chucky. I love how he continues to be committed to the franchise to this day as well. Okay, so let's rank the movies, shall we? Let's update our list. So I think it's gonna fall between 3rd and 4th place for me. I'm struggling to decide whether I think it's better than Halloween or not, okay? And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but this is... So right now I'm gonna put it in 4th place. So we have Friday the 13th at the bottom, followed up by Child's Play, which is followed up by Halloween, and then we have A Nightmare on Elm Street, and then out on top we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm not sure, honestly, if the ranking will stay that way or if it will change, but we'll see how I feel at the end. So let's move on to Terrfier, shall we? So Terrfier. Is Terrfier deserving to be on this list? I think absolutely 100% yes, it does. And I think it's super exciting that we have slasher movie franchises coming out in 2025, in 2024. Like, you know, it's exciting that we have that because we haven't had like a solid slasher movie franchise come out recently. Like, Scream is still putting out movies, but other than that, like, Terrfier is all we got. So I'm putting it on this list. Okay, that being said, what is the plot of Terrfier, you would ask? And I would say that is a great question. And I would say the answer is that there is no plot in Terrfier. It is crazy clown killing people. That is the extent of the first Terrfier movie, okay? And I'm not going to try to overanalyze it because there is nothing to overanalyze. That is the movie. Terrfier 2 and 3 that come out later totally have their own plot and their own story going to them, but we're only talking about the first movie here, so I cannot talk about that in reference to this movie. This standalone movie, there's really no plot, okay? And there's also definitely some cliches going on in this movie. My all-time least favorite trope is oh, he's got his headphones in, he can't hear this person screaming at the top of their lungs beside him, and then they're just wired earbuds. Like, dude, I know you hear her. I know you do. And the characters are kind of meh, but I'm pretty sure that's because Damien Leone, who is the director of Terrfier, has said that he did not expect Terrfier to blow up in the way that it has. So Terrfier not having a plot to it or having that much character development kind of makes sense when you think about it like that. He definitely improves upon this in later movies, but I digress. I've talked about other movies' music, so I just wanted to mention that Terrfier has like this regular show ass music for some reason. Like, I feel like the music is from regular show. I don't know. Anybody else, or is that literally just me? Okay, so the setting of Terrfier takes place in Miles County in New York. But I find the setting not to be very integral to the plot. Like, they will mention things like the Miles County Massacre. Outside of that, it's not really important, I don't feel. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the killer, because that is definitely the draw to Terrfier, is the killer, Art the Clown. I will argue, okay, is just as iconic nowadays as other killers on this list. Art the Clown is amazing, and he is, I think to this day, the best part of Terrfier. He has an amazing design, and David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown, I think is just as amazing as Robert Englund or Brad Dourif. I'm also gonna say that I think that Art the Clown has the scariest horror killer design. Like, I saw Terrfier 3 in theaters, and then like a week or two later, I went to a haunted trail, and there was a guy there fully decked out in Art the Clown getup, and I was actually like scared. Like, I was like, stay away from me, please. Like, it's scary. And the whole like mime, like silent killer thing that we also see in Michael Myers, I think is also done very well here. It adds to that layer of fear that you feel watching these movies. So we're going to talk about the kills and the gore in Terrfier, which is kind of what Terrfier is known for. Like, you heard, I'm sure you all heard when Terrfier 2 was in theaters, everybody was saying that people were passing out watching it because the gore was insane. And I think that Terrfier is a movie that 100% lives up to the reputation of being a gore fest. These movies are 100% gore fest movies, and I understand that it's not for everybody. However, I really like the gore in these movies. It's really impressive, and the first one is absolutely no exception. Terrfier had a budget of $35,000, the first one did, and I'm pretty sure all of that went straight into the effects department, because it definitely, you know, it didn't go to the acting. I'll say that. It did not go to the acting. So the uncomfortable meter for Terrfier works a little bit differently than it does for the other movies, because I'm uncomfortable for different reasons watching Terrfier than I am watching Friday the 13th. If I'm watching it with somebody else, I'm going to be uncomfortable watching a woman get sewed in half vertically, because I was like, you need to watch this movie, it's so great, and then it's Terrfier. You know, like, what do I look like showing somebody Terrfier? Also, I watched Terrfier 3 in theaters, like I mentioned. We watched it with a group of people that we know, and one of them was like laughing maniacally at these scenes. And now I'm uncomfortable because I'm like, this dude's a serial killer. He's going to kill me. So yeah, that's the uncomfortable meter. It kind of works a little bit differently. You know, all in all, I think Terrfier is a bad movie. And I know you're all like, then why did you include it in this list? And that is because, I don't know, I just wanted to, honestly. I think Terrfier deserves its flowers for being a new and up-and-coming slasher movie franchise. I love Art the Clown and the gore, and those are its redeeming qualities. And I think Terrfier 2 and 3, you could argue, are better movies than the first one. And honestly, when I was making this and ranking it, I really wanted to put Terrfier above Friday the 13th. But I realized that is too controversial. And also, I'm really bitter about the snake thing. And also, I just cannot in good conscience say that Terrfier is better than Friday the 13th, because it's just, Friday the 13th's downfall is that it is boring. Terrfier is not boring, it's just bad. So, they could say that they are, you could say that they are evenly ranked, but for me, this is what I'm ranking it as. Terrfier is going to the bottom placement in 6th place. Above that, we have Friday the 13th, and then we have Child's Play, Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That is the current ranking of these movies. Okay. Last but not least, maybe the moment you've all been waiting for, we are going to talk about Scream. And I am just now realizing that this is totally insane, and I'm gonna be walking around looking like a weirdo for a week. It's fine, you guys, it's fine. Where to start with Scream? This is another one that I might geek out on, so in advance, I'm sorry. So, Scream is just a slasher whodunit movie. Most slasher movies are whodunit by default, but Scream is one that does it very well. I think the best. So, and the plot is simple, and that's totally fine. There are definitely some more details that you could get into that make the plot a little bit more convoluted, but just for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna say that basically the plot of Scream is Ghostface, the killer, starts killing people, and they're trying to figure out who done it. That is all I'm gonna say. I know you've all seen Scream, and you know the plot is definitely more convoluted than that. However, I'm not gonna get too into the details. That's all I'm gonna say. The movie just sets up this fact of who is Ghostface. It could be anybody. It could be you. It could be you. Is it you? It's not you. I'm gonna say Scream feels so different from every other movie on this list because every character feels like a character. They feel like their own person. They all have their own thing going on in the movie. They're all interconnected. It's great. They are fully developed characters. We have Sydney, who is arguably the best final girl in any horror movie. Okay. She's amazing. She fights back. She fights back against Gale Weathers, who is another good character. You love to hate Gale Weathers. Weathers? And then you have Dewey, and I love Dewey. This like rookie cop, like up and coming, like slightly innocent. Like, I love Dewey. You have Randy, who's like obsessed with the horror movies, and then you have Stu and Billy, and look, I'm not getting into the characters. Just take my word for it, and you know every character in Scream is well done. So Scream and their notorious cold openings. Scream has the best opening to any horror movie of all time. It just does. It is iconic. Everything that is good about Scream is in this opening, and it's carried on throughout the rest of the movie. I love Scream's utilization of this technology that, you know, it's old to me because it's a 90s movie, but you know, they try to use newer technology in the new Scream movies, and it doesn't work. It misses. The first movie gets it so perfectly right. Like, it is amazing, and it has a super strong introduction to Ghostface, and it's great. We'll move on. So, setting. Scream takes place in Woodsboro, which is in California, but it is a fictional town in a very real state. And I like Woodsboro. It is one of those things where I don't really know how to rank it because it's like a town. Woodsboro is similar to like Haddonfield for me. It's just like an iconic like town in a slasher movie. So yeah. And it also has those like fall vibes. I don't even know if Scream takes place during the fall. I assume that it does, but I don't know for certain. All right, moving on. We'll talk about the killer because that's what you're all here for. Let's talk about Ghostface.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I said earlier that I think that Art the Clown is the scariest design slasher killer. I will say, I think Ghostface is the best overall design slasher killer. And the best part of Ghostface is the mask, this mystery of who is behind the mask. But Ghostface is just so dramatic, so campy. He's running around like flipping all over the place, like just overly dramatic, very violent too, like in his mannerisms. Like, it's amazing. Also, I'll talk about Roger L. Jackson, who does the voice acting for Ghostface. It is amazing. One of the best voice acting in any horror movies. I think right up there with Brad Dourif doing Chucky for Child's Play. It is great. I love it. And then the killer reveal we also have is arguably even better than the mystery of who's behind the mask. Scream has not one, but two killers. Only movie on this list to have two killers. We have Stu and Billy Loomis, who are announced as the killers. Spoiler warning. You've definitely seen this movie, so sorry not sorry. And they are just as goofy and campy as Ghostface is when the mask comes off.
My mom and dad are gonna be so
They carry on his mannerisms as themselves and as Ghostface, and it works. So let's talk about the kills and gore in Scream. The kills are just top tier in this movie. Just like everything else, if I'm being honest. Ghostface is and has always been one of the most violent killers in terms of his mannerisms, and this movie is no exception. It sets the tone for it in this movie, and it carries on throughout the rest of the movies in the franchise. So let's move on to the twist. The twist in Scream is arguably one of the biggest twists in horror history, and that is that Ghostface is actually two people. And that's built up so well because this whole time you're trying to figure out who it is, and then, you know, it's actually two people. Who would have thought that? It's kind of unheard of for the time, I think, and it's great. And that's also similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That is the twist that Scream keeps with throughout the entire franchise. It's kind of this, you know, the mystery under the mask. That is, you know, always Scream's big twist, right? And then the uncomfortable meter for Scream. I'm not very comfortable watching this movie. I love Scream. And there's not much, you know, there's not much uncomfortableness to be had within Scream and the subsequent movies that follow it. And also, considering the fact that I watched Terrfier right before I watched this movie, I'm giving it a pretty squeaky clean ranking on the uncomfortable meter. All in all, Scream. Spoiler warning, Scream is my favorite slasher movie of all time. Like, ever. It always has been. It always will be. I love Scream. It is the exact same thing I was talking about with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When I rank my favorite horror movies of all time, Scream, always in my top 3. Scream is actually normally in my top 2. This is little insider information. My favorite 3 horror movies of all time are Blair Witch Project, Scream, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just so you have that information. I guess if you care. Hey, do you care? Probably not. But Scream was a huge deal when it came out. It changed the horror genre, right? For better or for worse. Everybody was trying to be like Scream because it was such a big deal. And Scream still is a very big deal to this day. It's directed super well. We talked about Wes Craven for Nightmare on Elm Street. He also directed Scream, and I think Wes Craven's directing style is really strong. So yeah, the first Scream is amazing, and I think unlike a lot of the movies on this list, the sequels to Scream are very well made as well. So I'll say that. So let's update the ranking for the final time, you guys. Are you excited? Okay, let's go. So I'll leave you in suspense for a little bit, and I will just update you and say that I decided to rank Child's Play and Halloween in a joint tie for 4th place. Okay, let's start at the bottom. Coming in last, we have Terrfier. Right above that, Friday the 13th, Child's Play and Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then coming in at number 1, we have Scream. And I mean, is this a surprise to anybody? Like, I'm pretty sure when you clicked on this video, you're like, oh, I know Scream's gonna be number 1. I kind of thought that Texas Chainsaw Massacre might take it because of how much I love that movie, but then I realized, you know what? I think I love Scream more than I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love them for different reasons, but in terms of ranking purely on slasher criteria, Scream is always going to be number 1 for me. And like I said, it just does everything right. It completely changed the horror genre. She was just that girl in the 90s. I don't know what to tell you. Following Scream in the ranking, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And you could totally argue that it is a better movie than Scream. I would sit in the audience and nod my head and say, yes, I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a better film than Scream. However, I just think Scream is a slightly better slasher movie than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And if your ranking is 2 and you're second only to Scream, you're not really losing that much. And then we have Nightmare on Elm Street coming in 3rd. I love these movies. All of them pretty much, except the newer ones. We don't really talk about those. There's a lot going for it. The effects are amazing. The music is amazing. Freddy Krueger is amazing. But I just don't really care for Nancy, like I said. And also, unfortunately, for A Nightmare on Elm Street, it's just not Scream. And it's just not a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's okay. 3rd is a pretty solid ranking. So coming in 4th, we have Child's Play and Halloween tied. Both are solid movies overall. I find that Halloween could be a little bit slow at times, which brings it down a little bit for me, along with some unnecessary nudity that it has in it. In Child's Play, I don't find boring at all. It just feels like it's missing a little something that pushes it over the edge. And that something could be what we have in later Child's Play movies, which is just more funniness from Chucky, I think, adds to them as we go forward. And then we have Friday the 13th in 5th place, and that I find it to be boring. It feels like nothing is going on in this movie, and also I think its reputation kind of works against it because it has been built up for so long, and then you watch it and you're kind of just left disappointed, I feel. And then coming in last, we have Terrfier. I feel kind of bad because I put Terrfier on this list only to rank it last. Like, I'm sorry. It's just unfortunate for Terrfier that the first movie in the series is the worst one. I mean, like, it is a movie that improves upon itself as the series continues. But we're just talking about the first one, so unfortunately, I have to put it in last here. Unfortunately, the killer and the gore just, while they are amazing, it just was not enough to save the movie for me. And yeah, that's it, you guys. My ranking of the first entry into the iconic slasher movie series that we all know and love. Definitely, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments what you think I'm wrong about. I'm not going to change my mind, but I would love to hear it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Fucking hit me with the phone, Dad!